Okay, we're live.
3, 2, 1. Hello, podcast people. I'm Justin Freed. This is episode 143 of the Tech Podcast. inThirty, we're talking WWDC 2014. Chaim Cohen of HaimTime.com and Paul and Shapiro of paulandshapiro.com are with me as always, and we have our contributing podcaster, Drew Pritchford, talking WWDC with us. I think you hit the last two. Is this the third one in a row that you've been on for, or you were at a... You seem to make it for these discussions, right, Drew?
I think it's whenever it's an Apple-centric event, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. And I guess we do have to get started, even though Drew explicitly asked me not to talk about Beats by Dre officially being purchased from, by Apple from Tim Cook's huge bankroll. And the press photo says it all. It's three white men. And one black guy, all in button-down polo shirts or whatever the hell they're wearing. It's very, I don't know. Like, it looks like Martha Stewart has also been purchased by Apple or something. But this is going to set the tone for WWDC, right?
Well, how about this? Well, I guess they're going to say we have this proud partnership with Dr. Dre and Jimmy, I don't know his last name, Iovine. And are they going to come out on stage and they're going to bow and fist bump and everything?
But the point is that it's no accident that this is being announced so close before WWDC. Drew, how tightly do you think that this acquisition is going to tie into things, or are they doing it beforehand so that they can ignore it at WWDC?
I don't think they'll ignore it. I think it'll be a little bit in between. They'll probably bring them out on stage and do the big introduction and all of that, but and maybe explain exactly what they're purchasing Beats for in a little more detail. But
it's an acqui-hire. It's an acqui-hire.
Right, because Jimmy and Dre, apparently their titles at the company will be Jimmy and Dre. So they're really upping their cool quotient through this acquisition, obviously. But all right, let's put that aside for now and get like a little deeper into the standard run-of-the-mill stuff that happens at every WWDC. We're going to see 10.10, right? I mean that's going to happen. Phil Schiller will announce some new iCloud integrations and the like, right? I mean is that a given at this point? This is what the development cycle is.
Yeah, I think so. And also this year, of course, will be the flatter OS 10. I think that's pretty much what I expect.
Wait, was it already flat? Like, I mean, is this going to be beneath flat? We're going to go below sea level?
Paul, you think that this is going to be the Johnny Ive-inspired redesign, at least visually, of OS 10, or are we talking functionality improvements and we'll leave the GUI for another time?
I mean, that would be really cool. I have no idea. I mean, it would be consistent with what they're doing with iOS, and they're always trying to make iOS and macOS 10 sync up, so...
I still want to know, Justin, where does the title of Jimmy and Dre fit? So we have Tim Cook, we have Phil Schiller. Do they go between them and Johnny Ive, or do they go after Johnny Ive? Are they beneath Scott Forstall? Are they above Craig Federighi? Or
no,
where do they go?
the only Scott Forstall is beneath like the part-time janitor at One Infinite Loop. Johnny Ive is in a category all his own, and Eddie Q is the superior for Jimmy and Dre. That's the rule. That's the hierarchy.
So Johnny Ive is higher than Johnny whatever his name is,
Iovine. Yes. Okay. I feel like I got so excited by this acquisition and looking at Dr. Dre yucking it up with Tim Cook that I made a mess at the beginning of the show. So let me try to bring us back into orbit, sort of. Okay. It seems like Apple has moved so far into the mainstream now that everyone has something to get excited about for WWDC. It's certainly a developers conference, but this is now, at least in part, a way for them to launch products, right? I mean, this is when they set the stage for another year of products. We're not as developer centric as it's supposed to be. Your mom is gonna walk away from the announcement being able to, I don't know, download something.
I say you're wrong. I don't think we see a shipping within 2 weeks. I don't think there will be a single product within 2 weeks of WWDC.
Including software?
Yes, I don't think nothing says ship tomorrow unless it's like an iTunes update or an iWork or some app update. I don't see anything we talk about being launched within 2 weeks.
Drew, the Oracle from Alabama on all things Apple. Where do you come down on Haim's prediction?
I would agree, except that I would say maybe we'll see iMacs, and they might be released within 2 weeks.
Okay.
That'd be my one caveat.
And Paul?
I have no clue.
Okay.
What is the precedent for this that we think that they're not going to release anything in 2 weeks?
What we're trying to kind of meet out is whether or not WWDC is at its core it's certainly about the developers, but whether or not this is a jumping off point for new products. That's kind of at the core of it. And Drew, apparently you're betting on the iMacs. I think that the iMac and Mac Mini line could both be updated. I think that and even the MacBook Airs could be updated at WWDC.
I think it's pretty sure to be a Mac product. I mean, the iDevices will be all in the fall, as they have been the past 2 years or 3 years now.
So, are the product cycles going to be tightened up, and are they going to be? Is Apple going forward going to be more upfront about what to expect from the iOS devices as they have been seemingly with OS 10? Is that planned demarcation of updates going to make its way into the hardware at all?
Well, I mean, it's a developers conference. If anything should get released, it should be a Mac Pro. It should be a Mac Pro, maybe an iMac, and that's about it. I mean, to say here's a new consumer MacBook Air product at a developers conference doesn't seem like the way to go. I like the fact that at the end of August they do the iMac thing. They do if they do an event every 6 or 12 weeks, they can keep people in the loop and bring that spotlight back on them. So to release everything at once is not necessarily the right way to go.
So is Apple as beholden to its developers as, say, Google and Microsoft are? Do they have as much to lose by not pleasing them? Does Apple get to kind of call the shots in a way for its product lines that Microsoft and Google are envious of? I mean, what do they have to do here to keep people on iOS and developing for the Mac App Store, or is that a foregone conclusion now? They've kind of won that game in the mobile sphere, and these updates don't. They can I don't know. They can basically stop development of the APIs for Siri and the rest, and developers will breathe down their necks.
Let's go more consumer facing. I know I just said the exact opposite. What do we think? Let's just go. What are they going to announce? So they're going to walk up. The first 20 minutes are always going to be, we sold a bajillion whatever iOS devices. We are selling 1 billion activations a minute. Here's the iRevenue store. Okay, then they go into, are they going to talk about 10. What is it, 10.10? Do we know what it is?
It is 10.10. I mean, is it the room? Okay, I guess the as I try to synthesize what WWDC will be for 2014, I think a lot of the cats are already out of the bag. I mean,
we know 10.10. We don't know what it is, so I'm assuming we're going to see some developer preview, and that may be developer preview announced today, so maybe I'm wrong. But then we get into, well, you have to run this on something shiny, so we're going to update, I don't know, I like the idea of the iMac being updated, because generally it's a summer thing. And then I guess we go into the iOS stuff, and we may see a phone, we may not, but like Drew said, they usually come out in the fall.
Is there going to be another huge? Okay, this is what I'm thinking. That this stuff is all old hat by now. I think that there's going to be a new platform that's going to be iHome or something like it, and that is what WWDC is going to be about going forward. Drew, do you think that if it's not the iWatch, there is going to be some brand spanking new thing that they have to onboard developers into and to develop excitement around, because the rest is kind of pat by now?
Well, yeah, I think so, because Mark Gurman pretty much said that, and his word has pretty much been golden for the past 2 years. So yeah, I think the iHome thing, the automation, whatever, that'll be a big part of it. But that, along with 10.10, along with iOS 8, I mean, I think that's pretty much what you'll see.
Do we have specific smart home Apple products? Like, do we have an Apple light bulb? Or are they gonna put that out to Philips? And
Well, my understanding is they're just going to integrate with other people who make the hardware, and they're going to provide the platform for it, just like the made for iPhone type of car accessories.
So here's
made for whatever, home accessories.
So here's the important question: will I be able to control Justin's Nest thermometer from iOS 8?
Well, are they going to sell a new box that gets installed in or that gets retrofitted in existing homes, and all new homes are going to adopt it, like the cars adopted the 30-pin port, 30-pin cable way back when? Is that what they're going to say, that this is Apple's doubling down on their ability to provide a platform, and that platform is going to expand beyond your pocket to your home? Is that how they're going to keep investors happy? Is that how they're going to grow on top of their already incredible growth? I mean, is not that we're seeing the end of iOS or the end of OS 10, but is that how this company goes forward? Is this the inflection point where it's certainly no longer Apple Computers, it's Apple Inc., but is 2014 going to mark the year of expansion beyond even traditional devices?
I don't know if it will. I think not necessarily 2014, but I mean they're going to have to find something to expand into. I mean, smartphones won't grow forever. Tablets won't grow forever. So it's the big question in the Tim Cook era, right? Can they find the next big category to enter into?
Is that the smartwatch? Let's ask Drew, because Drew seems to know. I don't think we see a smartwatch next week.
No, not next week.
Well, do you think they announce it? Do you think that there's an announcement of a smartwatch?
No, I don't think they announce it till this fall, actually.
See, I agree with that. I agree that Apple's doing it, but I don't agree that it's going to come out next week. I think that they're not ready yet, and I think the first part is this whatever smart platform. I do agree that something like that will be announced, and I agree that it's going to be that made with iPhone type thing. I don't know if they're going to put a box in your house, because that's a piece of hardware, and as much as they like selling hardware, I think it's better to get control of all the other pieces. Get that licensing fee.
Is the lesson here that this leak that Drew thinks is near gospel, considering the source, that this is definitely going to happen? Is this the thing that sets the stage for the iWatch? And because the iWatch really doesn't do a hell of a lot unless it controls your lights and your garage doors and your security system, and that's what you want on your wrist, and that's what you don't want to go to your phone for. Are we going to see the stage set for those types of advancements going forward? I mean, look, we know what Phil Schiller is going to do. We know what Tim Cook's going to do. Health book, whatever. That stuff is like we have dead-on rumors that tell us what's going to happen. Is the one more thing going to be the hugest one more thing ever, in the sense that Apple is now like a home devices company, or at least that? I guess I'm asking the same.
You're asking when was the last time they did a one more thing, and there hasn't been a one more thing in years. I think the one more thing is Dr. Dre doing the outro. I really do.
I actually don't think they're going to do one more thing in the way that we're thinking of it, at least. I mean, that's kind of Jobs' thing. But I do think the big new thing this year will probably be the home automation, along with the Beats by Dre guys.
So
let's ask Paul, what do you want to see? We haven't heard from Paul. Paul, what do you want to see coming out next week? You have an iPhone 5S. What do you want?
I don't want to see an iPhone 6. I just got an iPhone 5S.
Are you going to use your this health book? Are you going to use whatever device dongle that sticks into the headphone jack to measure your heart rate?
Sure, I would use that.
Would you buy it? I mean, or are you going to buy, if they have a smartwatch that will prick you every couple hours to measure your blood sugar? They'll do it in a way that will make you feel good. I don't know.
I most definitely will not buy a piece of electronics that likes to prick me.
I don't know. That in Japan, that's like the most popular feature you can get with a smartphone nowadays. But to me, this WWDC is going to have its a slew of API expansions that lets Siri directly interact with apps on your phone that make it easier for developers to integrate their Mac App Store apps with their iOS counterparts and vice versa, of course. And Apple is so mature as a company now, beyond the billions of dollars that they have in the bank, that they don't do anything just for the sake of releasing it. So Samsung, much of their hardware seems like it's just for the hell of it. Hey, a heart sensor can be built into the camera, and hey, we can measure the humidity in the room because there's a MEMS sensor that's really cheap and fits onto the PCB, so we're going to throw it in there. They don't do that. So whatever we see and whatever is going to be unveiled in a couple of days is going to set the stage for years more of planning. I think it's going to be an inflection point, and it's going to define the new Apple.
So we're getting NFC in the phone.
Well, I was going to bring that up next, and I think that's a possibility. I still think that NFC is a kind of begotten technology, but yes, that is a possibility too, Hein.
They're going to wait 3 years where NFC is no longer being used because they destroyed it, and now Apple's going to bring it in and going to resurrect it and say it was the greatest thing ever.
Well, that sounds like something they would do.
I mean, that is a Phil Schiller move, right? You denigrate something for years until you use it in the right way. But
But even that's going to be in the fall. I don't think that's coming out. That's not going to be talked about next week.
That's true, because they don't announce hardware. They're just going to announce the software. And, I mean, I don't know what I necessarily want from my OS 8. I want it to be leaner. I want it to work on my iPad 2, which it should if they just deprecated the iPad 2 6 months ago. But I don't know.
Your iPad 2, you should give it to your less than 1 year old son. That is his plate. That is it's a child's toy now, right? I mean
but 6 months ago it was still being sold. I think it was still being sold until February. So they have to support it, right?
That is true. In the education market, I think they still have it. But I think
the thing to remember too is, you know, they kind of go with the TikTok schedule, obviously, and so every off year, so to speak, is the hardware year. So this year's software probably will not be that impressive to the naked eye. I mean, there'll be, you know, inter-app communication, maybe quick reply notifications or something. I mean, not really that big of a deal. The big deal is going to be the hardware in the fall with the bigger iPhones, you know, iPad Air 2 and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's, you know, to get your expectations too high for the software is probably going to be a mistake this year, because it will be good, but it's not going to be mind-blowing, especially like last year was.
So see, my thinking, and I agree with that analysis. They do follow that schedule, whether it's for financial or supply chain reasons. That's just, or it's a matter of controlling consumer expectations. That's how Apple plays the game. But I bet that there will be, when you look back on this WWDC, you're going to say, oh, it's interesting. They released this. They started having developers work on resolution independence, or they started having developers focus really heavily on iBeacon. But the reason for that was because in 2015 they're going to release a whole new set of hardware specifications that allow people to make it so that every doorknob in your house is controlled by your iPhone, whatever it is. I mean, they're planning, of course. There's someone that inside Apple that knows exactly what's going on, and they let developers in. They pull the curtain open as much as is necessary and no more. And I think that's what this year is going to be about. These nascent technologies, or these nascent kind of ideas, they start now. They start now. They're going to direct people, whether it's to NFC or whatever.
Do we see the new Apple TV hardware or the new Apple TV software next week?
The Apple TV gets ever older, and the experience gets ever staler.
Well, they release the Apple TV at WWDC generally. That's generally when they announce it.
And are they going to still reiterate that it's merely a hobby? I mean,
no. I mean, I think Tim Cook even came out and said that's no longer the case.
So, okay, so we're not looking toward Apple TVs. We're still talking about the Apple TV, but I go back to what I said earlier, that the developers are going to get a sense of what can be done, and the hardware will be forthcoming.
The Apple TV is going to be integrated into whatever smart home I think they at least mention. So they need to make it more than a hobby. That may be the box. The Apple TV will control everything with an upgraded operating system.
Well, that's what I'm hoping that we'll see next week is, this supposedly new Apple TV software that will, I don't know, just be fresher. I mean, the current UI is kind of getting very stale. So I'm hoping we'll see at least a preview of what's next, what's new.
So are they in a situation now, being as mature as they are, where they can't really surprise people, or they kind of have to play their cards so close to their chest that it's hard to excite people at the same time? Because that's where I think they're at. They want, and they also know that by the time the technology comes out, it has to work. These are the types of things where people don't want to experiment with them in their homes. So they've got to kind of lead developers down the primrose path perfectly, so that when Apple wants to pull the trigger and push out these products to Apple retail stores and have people go and demo them, they work 100%, and all their apps already work with it, even though the developers have never seen this new hardware. Like secrecy versus cross compatibility, I guess.
I think you're taking it too far. I think this is their time to show us what we can see, what we expect, and we go from there. I don't have high hopes for a wow factor next week. I just see it as this is the course, this is what you should be looking forward to, and I think we have a bigger wow factor in the fall because there's a lot of unanswered questions.
Really, Drew?
Well, I mean, this is a hardware year. Yeah, we're going to be wowed in September with the new iPhone, new design, bigger screen, blah blah blah, all that stuff.
Bigger, smaller, faster, bigger, stronger.
Yeah, this is all, this is like 2012 all over again. It's going to be at the end of the conference. I guarantee you, every tech publication will say, iOS 8, yawn, who cares? But that's okay because it's a hardware year. It's just the way Apple works.
These things that are coming, that every rumor blog seems to have, the 3D printed iPhone 6s, are they accurate or not?
Yes, I think so.
I agree. I think they're not only are they accurate, they're like 100% accurate. Paul and Haim, where do you come down on the iPhone 6 mock-ups that we've seen?
Well, let Paul answer first, and then I'll tell you what I think.
Yeah, I don't see any indication that would lead me to believe that they're not real. Usually it's pretty obvious.
I agree. I think they're going to be real, but just on a side note, I'm hearing a lot of blowback from people saying, I don't want a bigger iPhone. We heard that when they went to 5 inches, or 4 inches.
It's 4 inches.
Yeah, and then I just keep on hearing it. They don't want their phone to get bigger. So, and then you hear that there's 2 different sizes, and then you have the third size. And again, if you're a developer, you have to somehow adjust for this. So if they go to some sort of scalable vector, it's going to be we hate Android because Android has this and it doesn't scale right. Well, what is Apple going to do?
Well, that's what I have to walk this tightrope, where they get developers to vectorize everything first, and also use Xcode to build their apps properly so that they automatically insert extra space and all that.
I can't speak for developers at large. At the company I work for, we're already prepared for that. Everything has to use auto layout. Everything has to use constraints. You have to be ready for what we assume is going to be bigger iPhones in the fall. One of the things, though, I've heard some people say that, well, now it's going to be like Android. No, you're still talking about 3 screen sizes versus hundreds. So, it's going to be like Android.
And the technology underpinning it is better to begin with.
You have a 3.5, you have a 4, you have a 4.5, you have a 4.7, you have a 9.7.
You've got a 4, a 4.7, a 5.5, a 9.7, and a 7.9. That's 5 screen sizes.
So that means that you deprecate iOS 7. The last operating system that uses iOS 7 is the 5. Or the 4S. The 4S would be the last phone.
Yeah, I'd kill that. I think that's pretty obvious. It's 3 years old now.
But the iPad 2 is still.
I would also kill that probably, but it's 9.7. So what difference would that make even if they kept it?
And the resolution is really low though. The pixel
frankly,
density.
I think they should just get rid of all non-retina stuff now. I mean, it's time to move on.
Well, so with that sneaky upgrade to 1093 that included the Ultra HD resolution or like the Retina,
the 4K,
the 4K displays. I mean, it seems like that is what all of the development for both OS 10 and for iOS. If you're a serious developer for it, you presume that you're going to be running it on screens with higher and higher resolutions across potentially bigger and bigger screens. It sounds like, Drew, your experience tells you that that's an afterthought for the big development houses.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I came in and they're immediately like, everything's auto layout. Use it. If you don't like it, don't care. You got to learn it. And so, I mean, at least with my company, we're prepared for whatever Apple's going to do in the fall.
Do we see a 4K monitor that's Apple branded? Do we see a new cinema display that's 4K so they can get away from using Sharp?
Or do they for once slap an Apple logo on an OEM product, or is that's anathema to how they do things?
Well, they can't on current Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt 2 can't handle a 4K display, so they somehow figured it out with Sharp. But I think some of the Apple purists are saying this is really annoying. We want an Apple Cinema display that can handle like 2 or 3 4K monitors.
I mean, look, I think a cinema display at WWDC makes some good sense. But what I could throw in there that there's going to be a new, Apple keyboard mouse combo or something that also ships with the Mac Pro. I mean, is this a purely developers? Is this a pure developers conference? I mean, we talked about how you wanted to go to I/O and the benefits of that and how you get one-on-one time with the engineers. As a percentage. What percentage of people that are actively developing for iOS even get a shot at WWDC?
Well, everyone got a shot. The problem is it was a lottery to get in. So how you got in, we can do a whole episode on that. But. Okay,
but I think we did that a couple episodes ago. But it's what? It's a small drop in the bucket. The point is this is more the utility of actually going is less important than reading the Apple playbook that they're going to make available at WWDC.
Well, the idea is that apparently from the WWDC sessions, you see the slides and you hear the person talking about it, but you're not in the atmosphere, so you don't see a whole bunch of other little things that are apparently important for people to see.
How at this stage, when Apple is as big as it is, and requiring ever more hardware partners to build the device that they want to build, how do they maintain any secrecy whatsoever? It's amazing to me, even how many, they're going to be at the new mothership building. There are going to be 10 or 20,000 employees there, and at least some of those people are going to have foreknowledge of what Apple's plans are. It's amazing to me that every single element of WWDC doesn't leak out beforehand. I guess the NDA is like Tim Cook gets to cut off your balls if you breathe a word of it to your mother or something. I don't get it.
Well, somebody's leaking it because 9 to 5 has had something new. It seems like every day, every week for the past month. So there's somebody that is leaking it, but
Well, you lose the payout if you're the manufacturer, if you're Foxconn or whatever. You lose the payout, and that's huge because from what it sounds like, Apple buys the die cut machine, and then Foxconn has to pay them back. So if you're losing $1 billion contract, you have a reason to keep your mouth shut.
But what I'm getting at is that's the hardware end of things, sure. But at a software level, in order to make these presentations work, tons and tons of people have got to know what's going on. It's even if it's a team of 10 people that developed the original iOS version, that team has to have expanded by 2 or 3 times. And then if they're going to have a whole team of people supporting developers, a lot of people know what's going to be discussed in a couple of days.
30 seconds.
I'm just impressed that they keep it under wraps.
They may know one particular feature, maybe not the whole. In other words, not all of your secrets in one basket.
Right. Exactly. They know exactly that there's going to be a new type of button that does X in the back end. I guess that's how they They do. They separate their eggs quite nicely. Okay, this has been episode 143 of inThirty, talking about WWDC 2014. Thank you for listening.
Bye.